Like we talked about in our last set of notes, we are going to be calculating slope. Remember, slope is the constant change in the x and y values. They're going to be changing by the same amount every single time. Every single time. You are going to have to calculate slope on a graph, on a table, and from points or coordinates. So this is going to be one example of all of them, and then you're going to get some time to practice. So on a graph, if you ask somebody that you know who's in like algebra or 8th grade math, they'll hear you talk about slope. They'll think about calculating the rise over the run. The rise over the run. And that is exactly what it sounds like. Between each of our points, we're going to see how far we go up or down, and then we're going to see how far we run to the right between our different points on the graph. And then we're going to simplify it if we can. So if I look at my graph here, I'm going to start between any two sets of points. It does not matter. I'm going to pick this point, and I'm going to do the slope to this point. So like we said, to calculate the slope, we have to do the rise over the run. We have to put the rise over the run. So how far we go up or down, and then how far we go to the right. So if I'm going from this point down here to this point, first I want to see how far up I go. So I would want to count. I count 1, I count 2. So I rose 2 spots. Now I need to see how far I'm going to run. So from this spot over to this dot, I need to run. So if I count, that's 1, 2, 3. 3 spots that I ran. So if I look over here, I have 2 over 3. Can I simplify the fraction 2/3? Nope. So that means my slope is equal to 2 over 3. That's it. First counting how far up we go or down, and then how far we run, how far to the right we go. So that's it for a graph. If you would like to pause the video and do the practice on just the graphs, go ahead and do that. Or if you want to go through and just do the whole set of notes, that's fine too. So go ahead and pause it if you want to do the practice on the graph or ask questions. But if you're ready, go ahead and scoot on down for the table. If we are finding slope on a table, the first thing we need to do is choose 2 points. It does not matter. It does not matter which 2 points I pick. It's always going to be the same. It's always going to be the same. I personally like to work with small numbers. So what I would do is I would pick these 2 sets of numbers. I'm going to pick 0, 0, and I'm going to pick 1, 4. 0, 0, and 1, 4. We're going to have to set up our points in the form delta y over delta x. What this means is delta is a Greek letter that they just decided means change in. So if I'm trying to find the change in these 2 things, what operation is that going to be? Change. Change tells me that I am going to subtract. Change tells me that I am going to subtract. So what that means is I'm going to take my y's and my x's, and I'm going to subtract them. Sorry, I don't know why I did orange. I'm going to take my y's and my x's, and I'm going to subtract them from my smaller y and my smaller x. We're going to subtract these numbers and turn it into a fraction. We're going to subtract these numbers and put them into a fraction. Like it says down here, a huge mistake, a common mistake that we see is that sometimes people forget your y coordinates must be on the top. Make sure that your y coordinates, y's go on top, and x coordinates are on the bottom. Y coordinates are on top, x coordinates are on the bottom. So I'm going to set up my fraction. And we have 0, 0, and 1, 4. If I'm going to be subtracting these numbers, I typically want to have the bigger number come first since we're subtracting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have my 4 come first for my y. And then I'm going to have my 0 come first for my other y. Again, I want the bigger number to come first because I'm subtracting. I want to have a big number minus my smaller number because that's going to make my life easier. With that being said, since 4 came first for my y's, that means that its x has to come first on the bottom too. Since 4 came first for my y's, that means that 1 has to come first for my x's. So then I would do 1 minus 0 on the bottom. Again, these 2 points go together, so they have to both come first when I subtract. These zeros came second. That means they come second when I subtract. They gotta stay together. Use your colored pencils, use your highlighters to help you remember what colors stay together. And again, make sure the y's go on top and the x's go on the bottom. Now we're ready to subtract. So we're gonna do 4 minus 0, which is 4, over 1 minus 0, which is 1. Can I simplify 4 over 1? Yeah, we can. Top dog gets the house. So 4 divided by 1. How many times does 1 go into 4? 4 times. 4 times 1 is 4. I subtract and I'm good. So 4 over 1 is going to simplify to 4. So for this table, 4 would be my slope. I'm going to show this to you guys another way just to prove that it does not matter which sets of points you pick. I'm going to do this again, but I'm going to now pick 0, 0, and I'm going to pick 312. And I'm going to pick 312. So again, we have to do delta y over delta x. Delta means what? Delta means change in, so we have to subtract. I have to do my delta y over delta x. My change in my y over my change in my x. Like I told y'all earlier, when you subtract, if I'm looking at my 2 y's for this round, I usually want the bigger number to come first because that just makes subtraction easier. So I want to do 12 first, minus 0, 12 minus 0. And then remember, whatever y comes first, its x has to come first. 12 was my first y, so that means my first x has to be 3. Since 0 was my second y, 0 must be my second x. And then we're going to subtract. What is 12 minus 0? 12. What's 3 minus 0? 3. So again, we check to see if we can simplify this. two ways. One way we could divide, or a second way we can divide the top and bottom by a common number. What number goes into 12 and 3? 3 does. So if I divide 12 by 3, 12 divided by 3 is 4. 3 divided by 3 is 1. And we already saw that 4 over 1 is equal to what? 4. So I still have the same slope. It doesn't matter which two sets of numbers I pick. If you want to go ahead and work on a table problem, go ahead and do that. Or if you're ready just to go down and work on points and coordinates, you can do that as well. If you have questions, please, 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 please ask. Please, please, please ask. Our last set is going to be finding slope from points and coordinates. Finding slope from points and coordinates. What's nice is that they're the same steps as the table. We're still going to be doing delta y over delta x. We're still subtracting. So I need to look up here at my top, or at the coordinates that I'm given. On my coordinates, what comes first, the x or the y? The x always comes first, and then the y. The x comes first, and then the y. It goes alphabetical. X comes first in the alphabet, so y comes second. Remember, when we're doing delta x and delta y, what has to go on top? The y's got to go on top, and the x has got to go on the bottom. So I want to look at my coordinates, look at my y's that need to go on top. If you're subtracting, what do you want to subtract? What number should go first? 5 first or 10 first? We want that 10 to come first. If that 10 is first for my y's, what's going to be first for my x? 5. 10 was the first y, so that means x has to be the first, or 5 has to be the first x. And I'm going to subtract those. My second y is 5, and my second x is 1. Again, the coordinates that go together need to stay on top and bottom of each other. My blues went first, so they stayed top and bottom. My reds came second, so they stayed top and bottom. So now we got to subtract. What's 10 minus 5? 15. What's 5 minus 1? 4. Can we divide a number into 15 and 4? Can any number go into both of those? No. So 15 over 4, that's our slope. Or we can turn it into a mixed number, or we can turn it into a decimal. So if I have 15 over 4 and I want to turn that into a decimal, top dog gets the house. So that means 15 goes on the inside of my division box and 4 goes on the outside. How many times does 4 go into 15? 3. 3 times 4 is 12. What's 15 minus 12? 3. Put in that decimal, bring down a 0. How many times does 3 go into, or does 4 go into 30? 7. So we get 28. Subtract, still not pretty, bring down another 0. How many times does 4 go into 20? 5 times, and it goes in pretty bad time. So we could say that our slope is 15 over 4, or we could say that it's 3.75, or we could say that it's 3 3/4. Any of those answers are acceptable. Any of those answers are acceptable. If you have questions about any of this, please raise your hand and let one of us know. Or if you're ready, go ahead and keep working on your slope practice sheet.